Hello students, we are going to learn the ninth lesson in zoology, applications of biotechnology. The term biotechnology covers the various techniques that are using the properties of living things to make the products which are useful to mankind or provide services. In this chapter, we will learn the applications of biotechnology in various fields, including the field of medicine. The recombinant DNA technology has led to a large-scale production of various hormones and proteins of therapeutic use. First, we are going to learn about recombinant human insulin. The human insulin is synthesized by the beta cells of islets of Langerhans in the pancreas. There are about 51 amino acids that are arranged in two polypeptide chains in each of this insulin molecule. These polypeptide chains are named as A and B. The polypeptide chain A has 21 amino acids while B has 30 amino acids. Both the chains A and B are attached together by disulfide bond. The insulin controls the blood glucose level. The presence of insulin in the blood facilitates the uptake of the glucose by the cells and utilize them for the release of energy. When there is a deficiency of this insulin in the body, leads to diabetes mellitus. This is characterized by the increase in the blood glucose concentration, and it also leads to a complex symptoms that leads to death if it is untreated. The continuous program of insulin dependence is required to treat the deficiency. To treat diabetes mellitus in the early years, insulin was isolated and purified from the pancreas of pigs and cows. But there is a minor difference in the structure of animal insulin and human insulin. This has resulted in allergic reaction in some of the individual patients. So they started producing this insulin out of this recombinant DNA technology that has started in the late 1970s. And this technology has involved in the insertion of the insulin gene into the plasmid of E. coli, by which this gene is multiplied and the polypeptide chains are synthesized. The polypeptide chain that is synthesized from this technology is the precursor of the insulin molecule, and it is called as pre-proinsulin, and it consists of A and B chain. It consists of A and B chain that are linked by the C chain, and it is preceded by a leader sequence. The leader sequence is removed after translation of protein. This is the pre-proinsulin that is produced out of recombinant DNA technology. It contains A chain, B chain and C chain. The leader sequence is cut off to produce the proinsulin, and the C chain will be excised to produce the A and B polypeptide chain alone as insulin molecule. Humulin. The production of insulin by the recombinant DNA technology has started in late 1970s. This technique will involve the insertion of the human insulin producing gene into the plasmid of E. coli bacteria. So insulin gene from the human pancreatic cell is cut off and it is introduced into the plasmid by recombinant DNA technology, and this will be inserted into the host bacterium cell, where it will multiply and make more copies of the desired insulin gene, from which we can get the insulin molecule when it is translated into protein. Insulin was the first ever pharmaceutical product that was produced out of recombinant DNA technology, and it is administered into the human body. The approval of the recombinant insulin for diabetes was given by the government in 1982, and in 1986 human insulin is marked under the trade name Humulin. Interferons. Interferons are proteinaceous antiviral substances. They are produced by our cells when they are infected by virus. This was first discovered by Alick Isaac and Jean Linnemann in 1957. Based on the structure, these interferons are classified into alpha, beta, and gamma interferons. They help to stimulate the cells, the cellular DNA, to produce antiviral enzymes, and these enzymes will kill the virus. The yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae is more suitable for the production of interferons by recombinant DNA technology than E. coli, because E. coli does not possess the machinery for glycosylation of proteins which are necessary for the interferon production. What is this protein glycosylation that does not happen in the E. coli cells? Protein glycosylation is an enzyme-directed chemical reaction. This takes place in the endoplasmic reticulum and in the Golgi apparatus of the cell. This protein glycosylation will help in the proper folding of proteins, and it gives stability that is commonly needed by the cells of the immune system. Interferons are used for the treatment of various diseases like cancer, AIDS, multiple sclerosis, hepatitis C, and herpes zoster. In spite of this therapeutic application, interferons are not within the reach of common man because of its high cost. Next we are having recombinant vaccines. Recombinant vaccines are generally uniform in quality, and they produce very less side effect when we compare to the vaccines which are produced by conventional methods. Some of the recombinant vaccines are: first one, subunit recombinant vaccine. Here they use the components of the pathogenic organism rather than the whole organism. They will not use the whole organism for inducing the body to produce the antibodies. Instead, they use the component of that pathogenic organism. The components like protein, peptides, and DNA of the pathogenic organisms are utilized to induce the body to produce the antibodies, by which it can prevent the body from getting attacked by the pathogen actually and cause disease. The advantages of these vaccines include their purity in preparation, stability, and safe use. Secondly, we have attenuated recombinant vaccines. Here, these vaccines include genetically modified pathogens. They are genetically modified, the pathogens are genetically modified and made into non-pathogenic organisms, and they are multiplied more using genetic engineering, and they are used as live vaccines. Such vaccines are only referred as attenuated recombinant vaccines. Thirdly, we are having DNA vaccines. Genetic immunization is made possible by using DNA vaccines, which is a novel approach that came in 1990. Here, the immune response in the body is stimulated by a DNA molecule. DNA vaccine consists of the genes that encode for an antigenic protein, and this antigenic protein will be presented on the surface of the cell. These antigenic proteins are inserted onto the plasmid, and they are incorporated into the cells in the target animals. This DNA will instruct the cells to make the antigenic molecule, and that will be displayed on the surface of the cell. This exposure of the antigenic molecule will evoke an antibody response to the free floating antigen secreted by the cells. This would evoke an antibody response in the body. So the DNA vaccine cannot cause disease because it contains only a copies of few genes of the pathogenic organism, and it is relatively easy to design and produce a DNA vaccine. These vaccines can produce a long-lasting immunity and trigger the immune response only against the specific pathogens with less toxic effects. Recombinant vaccine for hepatitis B was the first synthetic vaccine which was launched and marketed by the trade name Recombivax or Engerix B. India is the fourth country in the world after USA, France and Belgium to develop this indigenous hepatitis B vaccine. The hepatitis B DNA gene is isolated from the virus and it is incorporated into the plasmid of E. coli, and this becomes the recombinant bacterium, and this recombinant DNA will be inserted into the bacteria E. coli, after which it will be multiplied to make more copies to produce HB antigen. What is gene therapy? When a person is born with hereditary diseases, when there is a defect in the genes, how can they be treated? They can be treated by the process known as gene therapy. So gene therapy is a process that involves the transfer of a normal gene into the person's cell which is having the defective gene. Because of this, the expression of the normal gene in that person results in a functional gene product. This will produce normal phenotype and the person's disease will not be expressed. Delivery of the normal gene into the cell is normally accomplished by using a vector. So far, the patients of the cystic fibrosis and the hemophilia, which are the hereditary disease of single gene mutation, are corrected or treated by this gene therapy. There are two types of gene therapy. First one is called gene augmentation therapy, and this is used to treat the disease which is caused by a mutation which stops the gene from producing a functional product such as protein. Here we can see the cell with a non-functioning gene into which a functioning gene is inserted. Because of it, this gene will express or produce a functional protein that will cure the disease. So this therapy adds DNA containing functional version of the last gene back into the cell. The new gene produces a functional product at a sufficient level to replace the protein that was originally missing in the cell. The second type is called gene inhibition therapy. Cancer is an example for this. Cancer sometimes results in the overactivation of an oncogene. So this is a cell containing a faulty oncogene. This will stimulate the cell growth. By eliminating the activity of this oncogene through a gene inhibition therapy, a blocking gene is inserted into the oncogene cell by which it will block the gene product of the faulty gene. This will result in the normal functioning of the cell, and it is possible to prevent further growth of the cell and stop the cancer in its track. The first clinical gene therapy was given in 1990 by French Anderson to a 4-year-old girl with adenosine deaminase ADA deficiency. ADA deficiency, otherwise called SID, severe combined immunodeficiency disease. This is an autosomal recessive metabolic disorder. In this, there will be dysfunction of a gene which is coding for ADA enzyme. Because of it, the person will not be able to produce a T lymphocyte that can elicit an immune response against the invading pathogens. For this, a bacterium carrying plasmid with the cloned normal human ADA gene is incorporated into the plasmid, and it is injected, inserted into the sick patient cell using a retrovirus. A retrovirus is capable of transferring the DNA into the normal eukaryotic cell through transfection, and it is engineered to contain the normal ADA. The isolated T cells, stem line cells from the patients are exposed to this retrovirus in the cell culture, and that will take up this ADA gene. And these genes are re-implanted into the patient's bone marrow, will establish a line of cells with functional ADA by which they can be efficiently treated for SID. Here the bacterium carrying ADA gene, it is incorporated with the plasmid. The cloned ADA gene is incorporated into the retrovirus, and this retrovirus is made to infect the patient's T cells in which the ADA gene is disabled. This retrovirus will infect the T cells. This will be transferred to the culture medium to ensure that ADA gene is active in the cells, and they will be re-implanted into the bone marrow of the patient body. What is ADA? ADA is adenosine deaminase enzyme, which is used in the purine metabolism. It is needed to break down the adenosine from food and turn over them into the nucleic acid in the tissue. There are two types of gene therapy. They are somatic gene therapy and germline gene therapy. In the somatic gene therapy, the therapeutic genes are transferred into the somatic cells. In the germline gene therapy, the therapeutic genes, the corrected genes are transferred into the germ cells. In the somatic cell gene therapy, the introduction of the gene is done into the bone marrow cells, blood cells, skin cells, etc. Whereas in the germline gene therapy, it is introduced into the eggs or the sperms. Somatic cell gene therapy will not be inherited to the next generation, whereas germline gene therapy will be inherited to the next generations. Next we are going to learn stem cell therapy. What are these stem cells? Stem cells are the undifferentiated cells that are found in most of the multicellular organisms. These cells are capable of self-renewal. They can divide and multiply more in number, and they also exhibit cellular potency. Cellular potency means they can be differentiated into all types of cells. There are two types of stem cells. They are embryonic stem cells and adult stem cells. Embryonic stem cells are pluripotent. They can become any type of cells, and they can produce all the three germ layer cells. The three primary germ layers are ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, out of which all the organs are formed. And these three primary germ layers can be produced out of this embryonic stem cells. These embryonic stem cells are isolated from the epiblast tissue of the blastocyst. What is this blastocyst? Blastocyst is the ball of cells that is produced out of the zygote. After fertilization, it undergoes repeated mitotic division to produce mass of cells. From the inner mass of the blastocyst, the inner cell mass of the blastocyst, the embryonic stem cells are isolated. The second type, adult stem cells, are found in various tissues of children and adult, and they can also divide and create another cell similar to it. Or these cells also can divide and make another similar cell out of it. They are multipotent. They act as a repair system in the body of adult and children. Example for this is red bone marrow. What are the applications of stem cell therapy? Generations of cells and tissues are done by the stem cells. Generations of new cells and tissues are done by the stem cells, and they are utilized for cell-based therapies. These stem cells are also used to test any new drugs. Let us see some of the features of these stem cells. Totipotency. Totipotency is the ability of the single cell to divide and produce all of the differentiated cells of an organism. Pluripotent, it refers to the stem cell that has the potential to differentiate into any of the three germ layers, ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Multipotency, it refers to the stem cells that can differentiate into various types of cells. Like from blood stem cells, it can be differentiated into, it can form lymphocyte, monocyte, neutrophils, etc. Oligopotency, it refers to the stem cell that can differentiate into only a few types of cells. Like lymphoid and myeloid stem cells can differentiate into B lymphocyte or T lymphocytes, but they cannot become RBC or red blood cells. Unipotency, it refers to the ability of the stem cell to produce only one type of cells. What are stem cell banks? The stem cells are extracted and processed, and they are stored in the controlled environment. In the storage, it is called as stem cells banks, and they are used for the treatment in the future. Amniotic cell bank will derive the cells from the amniotic fluid of the women placenta. Cord blood banking will extract the stem cells from the umbilical cord during the childbirth. Umbilical cord and cord blood are the most popular sources of the stem cells. Anyhow, the placenta, amniotic sac, amniotic fluid are also rich sources of stem cells both in quantity and quality.